Welcome to episode 3 of Law of Attraction and Bible Mysteries. Today we are going to be talking about the story of Moses. Now let us first begin by understanding what the word Moses means. The meaning of the word Moses refers to that which comes from the waters of creation, and we can see this definition at the end of the passage of the birth of Moses, where the Pharaoh's daughter, upon adopting Moses as her son, named him so because, as she stated, she drew him out of the water. Moses was said to be originally born from parents from the Levite tribe. The word Levi means joined in harmony. Moses is that which is brought forward from a holy, unified state of mind. When Moses was sent down the Nile in a basket covered in tar and pitch, this is a metaphor for physicality. Tar and pitch are a metaphor of the garments of physicality. Moses was clothed in materiality, meaning that Moses was born from imagination and then took on physical form. Now this could, on one level, mean a child, for tar and pitch can refer to the physicality of flesh and bone. It can also refer to any desire born from imagination which takes on physical form. However, Moses then eventually became the son of the Pharaoh's daughter. Now the word Pharaoh itself means the son or the king. This is referring to the highest of consciousness. The daughter of the son is wisdom, and Moses is reference to the physical creation, and in this case, this is reference to the creation of the material mind, or the material consciousness. So, while Moses is recognized as that which is born from the waters of creation, it is clear that Moses is the physical aspect of creation, be it a physical child or a physical manifestation, or in this case, as we will see as the story of Moses evolves, Moses is also an allegory for the material mind, that is, the ego. And we know this because as we read the story of Moses, we see that he got caught up in a conflict, and we read how he says, "What I did must have become known." Now in present tense, this means what I think or what I do must become manifest. The choice of words here is powerful because this is referring to the process of the ego. Because what the ego focuses on and assumes to be true becomes manifest. For the mind which thinks, that is the ego, it often reacts to outward appearances, which is exactly what Moses did. He reacted to an outward appearance. And then he was asked, "Who made you ruler and judge over us?" Meaning that Moses, the ego, was assuming himself alone to be the ruler and judge over all things. It is then said that Moses fled Pharaoh because Pharaoh was trying to kill him. However, this is somewhat a misunderstood and mistranslated statement, and we have to remember that it is also allegorical. Pharaoh, which is a metaphor for the highest aspect of your own consciousness, was simply trying to calm the ego. Because when the ego is calmed, when the ego is silent, when the ego is not thinking, then thinking itself turns to knowing. So in essence, what this passage is truly referring to is how the ego must not, as Moses did at first, run away from its true holy self. The passage is talking about how the ego must recognize God and not run away from God. Because when doubt is eradicated, when the ego is calmed, then there is only knowing. And the ego must know God. Now, when we talk about the daughter of Pharaoh, that is, the daughter of God, we are not talking about female in terms of gender. This is allegory of the subconscious part of the mind. That is the absorbing part of the mind. For the thinking part of the mind is the moving aspect of the mind. That is, it is that part of the mind which penetrates. And then the subconscious is that part of the mind which absorbs, which accepts the dominant thought of which the ego is presenting. Now, there's two metaphors for this. One metaphor is that the thinking mind and the subconscious are like two lovers who communicate. That is one of the most popular allegories, okay? And this is simply because it's trying to get across the idea that one part of the mind is moving and one part is absorbing. But in this case, in this part of scripture in the story of Moses, the thinking mind, the ego, is referred to as a childlike mind. And the subconscious is referred to that which is almost mother-like. And this allegory is pretty much the same as the two lovers, because it's giving you the idea that there is something moving, that there is a moving energy and an absorbing energy. The moving energy being the child, or the cry of a child, okay? That's moving energy. And the mother is allegory of absorbing those cries from the child and therefore tending to the needs of the child. It's the exact same allegory as the lovers. For example, the husband, the male, the moving power, impresses the female, which then delivers her faith and devotion to the husband. So in actual fact, these two allegories are talking about the same thing. It's talking about a moving energy, which is then accepted by an absorbing energy. And the moving energy is your ego, your thinking mind. And the absorbing energy is the subconscious. That's what it's talking about in regards to all these allegories, okay? And so as the story of Moses continues on, Moses eventually realizes that he has to stop running away. And so when Moses finally accepts this, he goes to the burning bush, which is on Mount Horeb. Now in the Bible, it says Mount Horeb is the mountain of God, which is exactly what Horeb means in Hebrew. So we know that when Moses finally accepted he can't run away from himself anymore, Moses then climbs the mountain of God. In essence, Moses then retreats into himself to discover who he really is. And so what this really means in essence is that Moses goes into a state of meditation. That is, the ego goes into a state of meditation. And the burning bush is representative of the Spirit of God. Because we are told that although the bush was consumed in flames, it was a flame that didn't ever go out. What this is referring to is simply the everlasting light of God. And in this state of meditation, God calls upon Moses, and he says Moses' name. He says, Moses, Moses. And Moses replies, here I am. Now the word I am appears often throughout the story of Moses, especially in the section of the burning bush. And it's here in this section of the story that Moses is given a task of bringing the children of Israel out of Egypt. Now what we have to realize is that the word Egypt refers to the black land. And the black land, when we go back into the various meanings of the word Egypt, it refers to physical land, or simply physicality. Now, the word Israel is a combination of three words, Is, Ra, and El. Is and Ra, when the words are split up, refer to polarities. Is refers simply to female, and Ra refers to male, while the word El refers to God. The words, however, when they are put together, that is, when they are reconciled, they simply give you a holy meaning. That is why the word Israel is referred to as a holy state. It is because when you reconcile with yourself, you are in a holy state of being. You are in the state of Israel. Israel is not referring to a geographical location. Israel is referring to your own holy state of mind. And Egypt is referring to your physical brain or the ego. And so we are told that when the children of Israel escape Egypt, that is, when the ego surrenders all to God, one finally comes out of Egypt. And so when the children of Israel escape Egypt, that is, when the ego surrenders all to God, one then comes out of Egypt and becomes united with the God mind, Israel. And we are told that at first Moses was afraid to look upon God. And we know this because Moses keeps asking throughout this chapter, "Who am I?" And God is telling Moses who Moses is. And we are told that Moses at first was apprehensive about this revelation of who he actually is. And when Moses finally asks the name of God, when he asks God, what should he say to the children of Israel in regards to who sent him? And God replied, "I am that I am. I am hath sent me unto you. That is my name forever." God then tells Moses, in an interesting verse, that the king of Egypt will not let you go unless a mighty hand compels him. So I will stretch out my hand and strike the Egyptians with all the wonders I will perform among them. After that, he will let you go. What God is saying is that the ego won't surrender until it sees proof of God, because the ego sees to believe rather than believing before seeing. And so God's promise here is to show the ego that reality is created through imagination, and that imagination is God. And once the ego is satisfied with this, it will surrender over to God. So Moses, in his state of meditation or state of rest, his state of surrender to God, is told that in no uncertain terms that he is equal to I am. That is, when you surrender to God, when your ego surrenders to God, when it stops reacting to the outside world and starts creating from imagination, you then become at one with God. You are I am.